Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 3668 BN. Today's date is June 18th, 2025, and the title of the episode is Deep State Panics Over Military in the U.S. Cities, EU Panics, Trump is Now the Hunter. Okay, let's talk about our health. As we age, our body's natural collagen production declines, leading to visible signs like thinner hair, brittle nails, joint discomfort, and worst of all, wrinkles. That's right, collagen, or the lack of it, is one of the leading causes of wrinkles and sagging skin. Unfortunately, most collagen typically found on store shelves don't provide the right type of amount of collagen necessary to combat wrinkles. And this is why I use Multi-Collagen, and I am obsessed with the results I'm seeing on my skin. Multi-Collagen provides the 5 types of premium collagen that my skin needs to look more youthful. I've seen smoother skin, more elasticity, fewer lines, and a more youthful glow. Plus, it easily mixes with my morning coffee or tea, has no clumping, and zero flavor. Grab your bag now while it's 51% off only at healthwithx22.com. Plus, order today to also receive VIP live health and fitness coaching for life, a free ebook titled The 14 Foods for Amazing Skin, a 60-day satisfaction guarantee, and free shipping with your order. Once again, this limited time offer is only available at healthwithx22.com, or just click the link in the description. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, big tech fake news, the puppet masters, I think what they're realizing right now is what they thought was going to happen is not happening. I mean, think about what happened with No King's Day. Trump didn't release the troops on every single city. Trump didn't go after the protesters. I do believe that's what they thought was going to happen. And I do believe that they thought what they saw in L.A., that's what they were going to see in all these different cities. And now Secretary Pete Hegseth, he was testifying in front of Congress, and it seems the Ds, they continually ask the question, is Trump going to use the troops in different cities? If he gives you the order, are you going to follow those orders? Why are they so concerned about this? Because think about it. The only place they saw this happen was in L.A. In L.A., what were they doing? They were destroying the city. Trump sent the National Guard in. The National Guard protected the federal buildings. He mobilized the Marines. And now, when they had the No Kings protests, that didn't happen. So they're asking Pete Hegseth, will you abide by what Trump says? Will you go along with releasing the troops on all these different cities? So the question is, why are they so concerned about this? Why are they asking this question unless they're going to do something later on? Because they're confused of why Trump didn't do this during June 14th. They can't figure this one out. And they want to know, well, is he going to do it or isn't he going to do it? And they're trying to trap Pete Hegseth. They're trying to trap Trump. And once again, you could see they're asking the question. Of course, you have to remember the deep state players, they use these politicians. They give them the questions. These are the questions we need you to ask. We need to see what the response is so we can actually go ahead and create our plans. And I do believe this was a test run to see, will Trump release the troops? Will he move them into the cities if there are just protesters? And yes, we had certain things happen during the way, but it was nothing like L.A. And what they notice is, no, Trump isn't going to release the troops on everyday protesters. So they're trying to figure out exactly what Trump's response is going to be, because I do believe in the future they're planning something much, much larger. Now, the other thing that we could see happening right now is that the EU, they're getting very, very nervous of what is happening out in Iran. And the EU, like Germany, the UK, France, they're all like, hey, you know what? We will have negotiations. We'll start the peace negotiations. We'll talk to Iran. Let's stop this, which means they're panicking right now because they're realizing, wait a minute, we might lose control over Iran. Now, remember, Trump, he is cutting the strings of the deep state players. He's not starting World War III. He's not starting a nuclear war. He's actually destroying the deep state hold that they have on Iran, just like he did in North Korea, just like he's going to do in Ukraine. And I do believe Putin is going to assist with all of this because Trump has already let us know that he is going to assist. And all of a sudden, Iran let us know last night that big surprises are coming and they're never, ever going to surrender. And this was coming from the Ayatollah and his aides. Well, there was no surprise. Yes, they launched some drones, but again, there was no nuclear weapon. There was no surprises. There was nothing out of the ordinary that hasn't been happening in the last couple of days. And you can see Iran is in a very, very tough position right now. Now, no, Iran doesn't have the upper hand. Actually, they're struggling right now. The fake news and everything else and all those other shills on X and Truth and other places, they're telling that Iran is winning. No, that's not the case whatsoever. Just like out in Ukraine, Ukraine was never winning. And Trump, he knows this. He let the media know that, no, Iran is screwed right now. They have big problems. And once again, Trump wants unconditional surrender. He wants to make a deal with Iran. He wants the deep state out of Iran. And I do believe in the end, I do believe he wants the people to take back the country. Now, is the U.S. going to go in there and have regime change? Is Israel going to go in there and have regime change? No, absolutely not. Not under Trump's watch. Actually, Trump let everyone know that he talks to Netanyahu every single day. I think Trump tells Netanyahu when to strike, when not to strike. And Trump, I do believe he is controlling pretty much everything right now. And Iran, they have now signaled that, yeah, we might want to speak and we might want to come to the White House. Because I do believe there are others within the regime in Iran. They are now escaping. They have their escape routes already planned and they're on their way out. And Iran is in a lot of trouble right now. I do believe what Trump and the Patriots have done right now, the plan has actually worked. And I wouldn't be surprised in the next week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, all of a sudden we see a peace deal, just like we saw in North Korea. Remember, the deep state players, the fake news, they were all out there saying, listen, Trump's going to start World War III with North Korea. In the end, what happened? Well, Trump became friends with Rocket Man. Remember, Trump was hitting Rocket Man very, very hard. He became friends with Rocket Man, wrote letters to Kim Jong-un. He wouldn't use the phone, and he let everyone know why he doesn't use the phone, because the press and others, they listen into the conversation. They have ways of listening in, so he doesn't do that because he knows that information would be leaked. So he sends letters and he uses other ways to communicate with the leader. So in the end, we had peace with North Korea. He cut the strings of the deep state players. He's now in the process of cutting the strings of the deep state players in Iran. The next country after this is Ukraine. And you could see with the help of Putin, which I do believe he's going to help, Trump has probably already made a deal. Listen, if we can get this done in Iran and you can assist me in Ukraine, we can negotiate trade. We can negotiate trade with other countries. We can reestablish you in the G8, and we can move forward past everything. And I do believe that's Trump's plan from the very, very beginning. And this is going to make the deep state players very, very upset. And with everything that we're witnessing and everything that we're seeing, Trump has just signaled that he's no longer the hunted. He is now the hunter. He is on the hunt. And he's tracking down and getting prepared and ready to destroy the deep state players. And I do believe this is exactly what's going to happen. And you can see everything is now being set up. We'll be talking a lot more about this a little bit later. But first, let's talk about what's happening with Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. She was rushed to the hospital in D.C., and it looks like she had some type of allergic reaction, and now she's recovering, and it looks like she's doing well right now. Now, the other thing that we could see, which is very, very interesting, is that when ICE goes to arrest the illegals, the Democrats now, they're jumping in front, and they're basically pushing propaganda because they want camera time. These no-name people, nobody even knows who they are. They're trying to get camera time. They're trying to get things going viral. They're trying to get empathy. But again, it's not working. New York City Comptroller and mayoral candidate Brad Lander was arrested when he held onto a person that federal agents were trying to take into custody outside the immigration court in New York City. And when you look at the video, you can see he interlocked his arms in with the illegal. He wouldn't let go. The ICE agent said, please let go. He interfered with the arrest of the illegal. So he was impeding a federal officer. And actually, he kind of assaulted the federal officer. Now, what's very interesting is he's trying to convince everyone he was just engaged in that tradition of accompaniment, of trying to bear witness, of trying to walk peacefully with someone. No, that's not what he was doing. He could have walked by his side without interlocking his arms. He could have said, I just would like to walk with this person. He didn't have to lock his arms and then try to hold him back while the federal agents were trying to arrest him. So his story is not panning out, and I don't think anyone's believing him, just like no one believed Padilla. He lied too. They all lie because that's what they do. They just lie and lie and lie. And right now, it doesn't look like they're going to be pressing charges, which I do believe they probably should start pressing charges, but they're afraid that these people are going to be maybe they'll be made martyrs or whatever. But I think the lesson should be, listen, if you interfere, charges are going to be pressed against you in every single state. Now, some states, they won't because, once again, you have corrupt individuals within those states. You have to have someone that's brave that's actually going to press charges. Homeland Security put this out and said, New York City Comptroller Brad Lander was arrested for assaulting law enforcement and impeding a federal officer. Our heroic ICE law enforcement officers face 413% increase in assaults against them. It is wrong that politicians seeking higher office undermine law enforcement safety to get a viral moment. No one is above the law, and if you lay a hand on law enforcement officers, you will face consequences. Absolutely. And you can see Governor Hochul, she is now going to use $50 million, hard-earned taxpayer money, to be used for illegal migrant legal fees. I mean, really think about this for a second. So basically, those people that came into this country illegally, broke federal law, not citizens of this country whatsoever, she's going to use all those people that pay taxes in New York, those people that are citizens of this country, she's going to use their money to pay for criminals. Think about that for a second. Elise Stefanik put this out and said, 50 million of New Yorkers' hard-earned taxpayer dollars are being used for illegal migrants' legal fees because of Kathy Hochul's illegal first. New Yorkers' last failed leadership in New York. Vote her out. And she's absolutely right. It's time for the people of New York and many other blue areas. It's time to vote all these individuals out. And you could see these federal judges, the ones that are protecting the illegals, remember the criminals, they're protecting the criminals. Well, they're responsible for every single thing that happens. Bill Malugin put this out and said, police in Aurora, Colorado, having press conference right now, showing new video of 9 suspected Venezuelan Tren de Aragua gang members armed with guns stacking up at and near the door of Aurora apartment complex last week, reminiscent of last summer. This appears to be TDA. That's what the chief of police says. So basically, the judges now are responsible for this. Julie Kelly says Jeb Boasberg must be so proud. And again, with everything that is happening, with all these judges trying to keep these people in this country, when certain events occur, they now are responsible for everything that has happened. And actually, by doing this, they should go to jail because, again, they don't have the authority to do any of this. They don't have the security information. They don't have what's really going on. And I do believe that because of this, this is a national security threat in this country. And these people are going to be held responsible in the end. And we'll have to see how this all plays out because, once again, the people of this country, they're waking up. They're understanding what is going on here. Just like they're understanding that the deep state players, the intelligence operatives around the world, they use the fake news. They use other news outlets like Radio Free Europe as propaganda outlets. And how do we know that they use them as propaganda outlets? Well, Mike Benz explains. If you ever had any doubt that the CIA and blob media are no longer primarily serving U.S. interest, burn this in your brain. The U.S. government has cut funds to its first major CIA-created media network, Radio Free Europe, and now a foreign body is funding it to keep it afloat. That should tell you everything you need to know right there. And when you look at Iran, you can see that Trump is using the narrative that the deep state players have been using for a very, very long time. Because again, they were pushing this and using Iran to send money, to place sanctions, to have other individuals use that country as money laundering. And if you go back to 2022, and Mays put this out, Jen Psaki says that Iran has rapidly accelerated its nuclear program, reduced cooperation with inspectors, and is only a couple of weeks away from being able to make a nuclear weapon. The same day, Tony Blinken said the same thing while testifying before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. The Biden administration went on to release billions of dollars to Iran. That seems a little worse than believing Iran is close to having a nuclear weapon and doing something to prevent it. So that is very, very interesting. Obama did the same thing. Biden did the same thing. Isn't that interesting? Now, I do believe Trump is using everything the deep state players have done to his advantage. And he knows that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon. He never said they did. He said we can't allow them to get a nuclear weapon. I do believe the deep state players always knew that Iran didn't have a nuclear weapon, and they used this to their advantage. So Trump now is using it to his advantage. Does he want war? No, he knows the people don't want war. He's going to end the endless. His main goal is to have the deep state players surrender. Think about when Trump put out that message. Yes, he was taking the IDF message saying everyone should evacuate Tehran. But think about why he was doing it, because he had other messages letting everyone know, we know where the Ayatollah is. We know exactly where he's hiding. And he put his message out because he wanted to see if the people of Iran, if they were listening. And since he put out that message, he got his answer. All of those individuals within Iran, they were listening, which means the deep state is listening, the regime is listening. He tested them, and it worked. Remember, his goal is to do what? Is to remove the deep state, remove the regime that the deep state put into place. And he's not going to go to war because he understands the people, they don't want any of these wars anymore. We're done with the wars. He's ending the endless. Charlie Kirk put this out and said, 86% of Americans don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon. So Trump used this. 60% of Americans don't want U.S. involved in a war with Iran. He used Israel. We're going to go after Iran using Israel. America is not in the war. Only a statesman of the highest order can navigate a situation like this. Trump is made for this moment, and that's absolutely true. Now, the other thing that's very interesting, and Last Refuge put this out, Last Refuge is pointing to two different posts that Trump made on Truth about Iran, and it looks like Trump was navigating around nuclear powers. This is what the Last Refuge put out. I post the direct statements from Trump on Putin calls because if you read the background, both before and after the Israel strike operation, you can clearly see the strategy. Trump is doing what modern U.S. officials never did, show respect to the aligned nuclear powers and positioning for the least amount of geopolitical collateral damage. You don't have to be a pro or anti-Trump to understand how executive level respect and diplomacy works. This is why the leadership of the Russian Federation respect Trump, even if they are in opposition to his positions. Trump does not want a targeted problem to escalate into a regional geopolitical conflict. This is the part that Macron, and he has in brackets doofus, cannot intellectually conceptualize. Even before the operations begin, Trump draws safe perimeters that all traditional agents of influence can understand. Don't buy clicks and hype, just focus on the prudent approach and evidence in the honest analysis of Trump's consideration. He's not shooting from the hip. And yes, he spoke to Putin. They understood each other. Putin knew exactly what he was doing. This was all planned. Remember, Trump is a builder. He's a businessman. He plans everything out. He planned everything that you're seeing from day one. Now, again, just because you plan something, it doesn't mean you go in a straight line. Have you ever planned something where you had to veer off and then come back? Or change the plan a little bit and then come back to the original goal? Absolutely. This is how war is fought. Actually, everyday life is like this. Does anyone have a life that's just straight up? Or is it bobs, weaves, ups and downs, good times, bad times? Well, it's the same thing with a plan. Plans, you lay them out. You say, okay, if the enemy does this, we do that. If the enemy does that, we do this. And you say, okay, let's plan all this out. This is this is the goal we're trying to reach. And oh, wait a minute, we can't go straight there. So we're going to have to take this turn off right here. We'll have to go down this way. We'll have to push the enemy where we want him to go using information, and then we can get back on course. This is what happens over time. And Trump and team, I do believe with the military, he planned this out from the very, very beginning. And just because it's not a straight line, it's not what you expected and what you wanted to happen, doesn't mean it's not working. Because actually, if you look at what Trump has done to this point, think about it. He's gotten the country rallying with him. We were able to override the cheating system where they overthrew the United States government in 2020. He's reversing everything that Biden has done, everything Obama has done. And now he's cutting the strings of the deep state players. I mean, think about what he's doing. He's exposing the system to the people. He's exposing how the money is transferred. He's exposing the money laundering system. He's doing all of these things, which means the plan is working and the people are accepting it. And you can see that Iran, they're using a lot of propaganda right now to make you think that they have the upper hand, which they do not. Mehdi H. put this out and said, General Masavi, Chief of Staff of Armed Forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran, said that the Iranian operation against Israel so far has been for deterrence, and the next phase of operation will be for punishing. He also asked Tel Aviv and Haifa residents to leave. And Iran pledged last night that there could be a huge surprise and a night to remember for centuries. Does anyone remember anything happening? Was there a nuclear explosion? Is Israel wiped out? Did U.S. join the fight? Are there troops on the ground? No, none of that happened. It's propaganda that they're using, and it's falling short right now, and it's not working. But overnight, they did send around 30 drones. They launched the drones to Israel, and most of them were completely and utterly shot down with no problem whatsoever. Now, what's very interesting, the deep state players within each country with their regime, they really need to make sure that their people don't understand what's going on. Because again, they don't want the people rising up, especially those people that want their country back, which is probably the majority of individuals within Iran. And what they normally do is they cut off internet access. They censor the internet. They make sure that nobody can be listening outside of what they're being fed within their own country. And this is why Elon has set up Starlink for them. And I do believe that this is not going to work out the way they think it's going to work out. Now, the other thing that we could see, and the fake news tried to make a really big deal about this, when Trump said, listen, I don't care what Tulsi says, we can't allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. If you notice, he just keeps repeating it over and over and over because this is what the deep state players have said for many, many, many years. And remember, during Tulsi's Senate hearing, she said there was no evidence whatsoever that Iran has a nuclear weapon. They said, yes, they're producing uranium at a pace that's kind of strange, but she said there's no nuclear weapon. And they're saying there was a rift between Tulsi and Trump. There is no rift whatsoever. They're on the same page. When they went to Camp David, her schedule couldn't allow her to go there, so she didn't attend the Camp David meeting, but she is attending the briefing. So everything that they said, everything that they were talking about, that there's a rift, nope, they're on the same exact page. Tulsi is even saying that, yes, we're on the same page right now. And once again, the deep state players, the fake news that are trying to push all this, it has failed. Now, what's very interesting, Trump, he was putting up his new flagpoles at the White House on the north and south lawns, and he paid for this with his own money, and it looks absolutely incredible, and actually we should have this. We'll be talking about that in a little bit. And reporters were asking him questions, and he was answering the questions. Pragmatic put this out and said, POTUS on whether the U.S. will strike Iran. Now, a reporter asked, you know what's interesting? This month, Tax Network USA proudly celebrates the entire month honoring freedom, resilience, and financial independence. To mark the occasion, They're offering 10% off all services for a limited time. If you're dealing with back taxes or missed the April 15th deadline, don't wait. The IRS is stepping up enforcement fast. Penalties can add up quickly, up to 5% per month, maxing out at 25% of your total tax bill just for not filing. That's on top of what you already owe. But there's good news. Tax Network USA can still help you turn things around. Whether you're self-employed, run a business, or your books are a complete mess, their team knows how to cut through the chaos and find solutions that work. Your consultation is free, and getting ahead of the problem now could help you avoid harsh penalties, wage garnishments, or surprise bank levies. Take the first step. Call them at 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/X22. And don't forget, this month only, you'll get 10% off Celebrating America. Regain control of your finances with expert help from Tax Network USA. Or just click the link in the description. Trump, do you have plans on striking Iran? And he kind of made fun of the reporter because back in the day, the deep state players would say, yes, we're going to strike, this country at this time, at, this date, and you can be there. And the fake news was there. And they put on a show and it looked really, really good. And Trump turned to her and said, listen, I'm not going to tell you what the hell we're going to do. Because, again, this is a military operation. And why would I tell you? Take a listen to what he said here.
Whether you are moving closer or you believe the U.S. is moving closer to striking Iranian nuclear facilities. Where's your mindset on that?
I can't say that, right? You don't seriously think I'm going to answer that question? Will you strike the Iranian nuclear component? And what time exactly, sir? Sir, would you strike it? Would you please inform us so we can be there and watch? I mean, you don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death and destruction. Why didn't you negotiate? I said to the people, why didn't you negotiate with me 2 weeks ago? You could have done fine. You would have had a country. It's very sad to watch this. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It's so, everyone thought it was going to be the reverse. I didn't think so. And I was telling them, you gotta do something. You gotta negotiate. And at the end, last minute, they said, no, we're not going to do that, and they got hit. Remember 60 days, and then came the 60. 61 is going to become a very famous number. That was one hell of a hit. That first hit. That was one hell of a hit. Not sustainable, to be honest. That's where it ended. It ended on the first night, yes.
Is it too late, though? Do you think it's too late to now?
Really, nothing's too late. The only thing too late is Powell. Powell's too late. Too late, Powell.
So you have to remember, Trump, he's not just going to go in and attack Iran. That's not his main focus. His main focus is not to attack Iran, have regime change, and put in a puppet government, start World War III, and have a forever war. That's not what he wants to do. Now, the only reason the U.S. would get involved, and Trump said this many, many times, is if Iran attacks the U.S. Now, I think what he's saying is if the deep state decides to attack we, the people, the United States of America, we will eliminate them. And he was just setting it up to make it very, very clear that this is going to happen. But we don't need boots on the ground. We don't need a forever war. We have aerial superiority. Israel now is doing that as we speak. And I do believe in the end, we will never, ever need boots on the ground. The only reason you put boots on the ground is to have a forever war. Plain Fag explains on X. I'm going to spell this out just once so people can link this tweet to the knuckle-dragging, mouth-breathing simian creatures that whine about boots on the ground as if Americans going to conduct a land invasion of Iran with Elevanti guerrillian troops and fight in the caves for generations. Everything that makes Iran a problem comes from a factory, and those factories can be vaporized from the air. Most U.S. casualties in Iraq were caused by sophisticated off-route EFP mines mass-produced by Iran. The rockets fired at Israel in such massive quantities that it threatened to deplete Israeli Iron Dome interceptor stocks and overwhelm their system, mass-produced by Iran. The drones and missiles the Houthis used to close the Bab el-Mandeb Strait and thus the Suez Canal, one of the most economically vital sea lines of communication in existence, mass-produced by Iran. The SRBMs being fired at Ukraine by Russia, mass-produced and delivered to them by Iran. The massive heavy MRBM arsenal, they've been attempting to mass murder Israeli civilians with and have used to threaten and coerce everyone else in the region, reaching as far as southern Europe, Italy, mass-produced by Iran. None of this happens without Iranian mass weapons production. Many millions of dollars in fiscal support and Iranian military advisors, leadership, and intel support. You don't get the kind of problems in that region from 6 effing clowns making homemade grenades out of soda bottles, bathtub explosives, and rusty nails. Anti-ship ballistic missiles aren't cobbled together by effing Cletus in his garage. Blow up the Iranian military-industrial complex, take out their nuclear program, and these problems go away forever. And if they try to build them again, you blow them up again. There isn't a hole deep enough for them to climb in. We built a massive 30,000-pound bunker buster bomb to make doubly goddamn sure of it. There is never, at any possible point in time, any reason whatsoever to put a single goddamn boot on the ground in Iran. That's how the forever wars were forever wars, because they just kept it going. They never wanted any war completed. And do we have to put boots on the ground in Iran? No, absolutely not. And think about it. The deep state was using Iran and their production of all these weapons to fund the state-funded terrorists. This is all the terror that we see throughout Europe and the Middle East. Isn't that interesting? Is this how the deep state players stayed in control? Absolutely. And they threatened they might have a nuclear weapon, a rogue nuclear state. Think about what they did here. And Trump, he let everyone know. He speaks to Netanyahu every day and told him to keep going. Trump is in control of the operation, and he's using Israel as a proxy to destroy Iran, to bring the deep state to its knees so the people of Iran finally say enough is enough. And Trump now is cutting the strings. After everything is all said and done, they won't be able to produce anything. They won't be able to use Iran, just like they can't use Ukraine anymore. What do you think Putin has been doing? They've been destroying all their weapons manufacturing, everything that they have there. Why do you think they have to get their weapons from the U.S. and Europe? If they have it, Europe weapons suck. Why do you think they're getting them from the U.S.? Because they don't have any anymore. And the same thing's happening with Iran. They have nothing. So again, what is Trump doing? He's cutting the strings. Take a listen to what he says about Netanyahu.
Mr. President, can you share some of what you've told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu?
So keep going. What do I say? I speak to him every day. He's a good man, doing a lot. Been very unfairly treated by his country, I think. Very unfairly treated.
Have you given him any indication that you may seek to aid them more than you have already?
No, I haven't. So far, he's doing a good job. He has been treated very unfairly by his country. You know, he's a wartime president, and he's going through this nonsense. It's ridiculous.
And Trump, he doesn't want a ceasefire. He doesn't want, time out. He wants an end to the deep state players. He says, we're not looking for a long-term war. I only want one thing. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's it. He wants it all to end. He wants an unconditional surrender. But you could see Iran's supreme leader, an election wizard put this out, he delivered an address to the nation. And he says Trump's threats to Iran, anyone who knows Iranian history knows Iran does not answer kindly to those type of threats. Israel committed a grave mistake and will be punished. Iran will not ignore attacks on its territory. Iran will deliver serious consequences to the U.S. if it joins in the fight. Iran will not accept and impose peace. They will not surrender. They will fight to the end. So basically, this is all propaganda. Iran can't do anything. The regime is trying to stay in power, and the deep state is pushing the regime, and the regime is panicking. And once again, Trump knows how to handle the deep state players. You see, there's no red lines. There's nothing like that. Oh, if they do this, we're going to... Trump doesn't play those games. Take a listen to what Trump said to the reporter when the reporter asked, what do you say to the Supreme Leader if the Supreme Leader says he will not surrender? Take a listen.
The Supreme Leader of Iran says that they will not surrender.
Say good luck.
What is the end game?
Say it. It's already run out. That's why we're doing what we're doing. Yeah, they had 60 days and a big, 60 days, plenty of time. And they made a mistake. Honestly, they made a mistake.
If you notice, Trump didn't say, oh, well, if he does that, well, he's crossed the line. Oh, we're going to use this. Oh, we're never going to do that. Trump just said good luck. See, it's peace through strength. He knows he has all the leverage. He doesn't have to use propaganda. He doesn't have to scream and yell. He doesn't have to do any of these things. And it looks like the end is near for the deep state players and the regime. Top Khomeini aides, they're reportedly in talks with Russia for a possible escape ramp. Several Iranian officials are finalizing their own exit plans. We have the Prince of Iran. I remember his father, I think, was the king of Iran, the Shah. And he's letting everyone know that the Islamic Republic has come to an end and is collapsing. Now, should the people have a king again, or should the people vote for their leader? I think in the end, the people should have a republic like the United States, and they should vote for their leader, a leader that will represent them. I don't think that the people of any country needs a king. Remember, the deep state tells us no kings, and that's what we fought against in this country. So once again, you could see that things are starting to really fall apart for Iran. And how do we know it's falling apart? Because the EU countries like Germany, France, United Kingdom, they're all out there saying that they are open to negotiate with Iran. They're getting nervous because they see everything starting to fall apart. They're panicking right now, and they're starting to realize that the regime might fold. If they fold, everything that they have done comes to a complete and utter end. And it looks like everything is coming to an end because, and Nick sort of put this out, 3 Iranian military planes have just left Iran and landed in Oman, the country mediating U.S.-Iran nuclear talks. A deal may be back on the table. And Trump, he's letting everyone know, listen, they're going to have to call me. They're going to have to come crawling back and beg for a deal. And Dan Scavino put this out, and it shows President Trump. It shows his post on Truth. It says unconditional surrender. And he put this out at 12:41. And very interestingly, post 12:41, April 23rd, 2018 says the following. Reminder, Iran is next. Marker. Installments, $250 billion. January 1st, June 1st. No inspections. No missile tech prevention. Load carrying, ICBM. Think North Korea. Who controls the money? Who really controls the money? Why does the EU have a vested interest in this deal? Who receives the money? When the U.S. sends billions in aid and or climate or et cetera, what entity audits, tracks to confirm intended recipients? None. How does George Soros fund worldwide counter events? Who funds worldwide leftist events? American taxpayers subsidize. Define nuclear standoff. Who benefits? How do you squeeze funds out of the U.S.? Threat to humanity? Environmental push? Think Paris Accord. Who audits, tracks the funneled money? Define kickback. Define slush fund. No oversight. R.E. Hussein. Why? How does the CIA fund non-sanction ops? Off the books. Will become relevant. Welcome, Mr. President. The U.S. will not agree to continue the Iran deal as it currently stands. So basically, it's a money laundering operation. They use Iran to create the weapons to keep everyone in control in this region. And I wouldn't be surprised if they blackmail a lot of countries saying, listen, if you don't do what we want, you will be hit. And they fund state-funded terrorists in all the different regions to keep we the people afraid and scared. Remember, the intelligence clowns, they have created Al-Qaeda. They've created ISIS. They fund all the state-funded terrorists. They're the ones who have done this. And what's very interesting, and Nick sort of put this out, Trump says Iran wants to visit him at the White House, and he might let them. He'll be meeting with his National Security Council in the Situation Room. Trump clearly doesn't want a war. He's working towards peace. No decision on action has been made yet, Trump says. So that is very interesting. I thought Iran was winning the war. I thought they had complete and utter control. I thought they were going to use their nuclear weapons. I thought they were going to bring down hell on Israel. Oh, well, that all fell apart, didn't it? Very, very quickly. So we have the Ayatollah's aides escaping. They're now calling Trump for talks. It doesn't mean we're going to have peace tomorrow, but you could see that they're panicking over there. And I'm sure the deep state players are like, no, you better not do this. You better not, ask for peace. So again, we have to watch very, very closely at what the deep state is going to do. Because remember, Trump said over many, many times that if any U.S. soldier, U.S. equipment, anything that is used against the U.S., that is an act of war. And we will then go into Iran and we will annihilate every single factory, everything that you have there, everything will be destroyed. And again, Iran, the people of Iran know this. The regime knows this. And let's see how much pressure the deep state has compared to the leverage that Trump has. And I do believe Trump has more leverage. And I think eventually what's going to happen is the regime is going to back down. They will no longer listen to the deep state, which means the strings are going to be cut, and Trump will have all the power. And I do believe at that point, enter Putin. And Putin will then get involved in the talks with Iran. Putin will assist Trump with Iran, and Putin then will probably end the war in Ukraine and work out a deal. And basically, the deep state players no longer have control over the two areas. All strings have then been cut. And I'm not saying this is going to happen over a day. There might be ups and downs. We might have to move left and right, but eventually this is what's going to happen. And this is going to be very, very interesting. Let's watch how this all plays out. And we also have to watch for a false flag because, again, Trump has let us know that if they try anything, that's when the U.S. will get involved, which means the deep state players might try a false flag. I'm not saying they're going to do it, but they might try something if they have the ability to do it. And I do believe this is why Trump let us know this. Now, the other thing that we could see is that the deep state players, they're now losing ground, especially when the cases go to the Supreme Court. And yes, they might have wins, at the local level, at the federal level, because these judges, they're blackmailed, they're bribed. But eventually what happens is when it goes to the Supreme Court can either say, oh, but crap, we don't want to look at this case. They might send it back down to the lower courts because, again, they're going to have to use the rule of law. All eyes are on the Supreme Court, and the people are watching them, and they know this. And this is why I think sometimes they say, well, we're not going to make a decision on this just yet. Let's send this back down to the lower courts. Other cases where they have to make a decision because they have no choice in the matter, well, every single time it seems that the rule of law always works in we the people's favor. Nick Sorter put this out and said the Supreme Court has upheld Tennessee's ban on transgender surgeries and hormone therapies for minors. This is a huge win for children. All states just received the green light to get on board. Absolutely. And of course, the three judges that decided not to rule in favor of this is, I think you can all guess who they are. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is that you can see the deep state players, they're still using the federal judges to block everything that Trump is trying to do. And yes, this is a judicial coup. People are now seeing those judges for who they are. And eventually what's going to happen, these judges are going to be impeached in the end. And what's very interesting, and Kyle Griffin put this out, U.S. judge issued a nationwide injunction blocking Trump passport policy targeting transgender people. So once again, we have a corrupt judge who decided to place a nationwide injunction, which really that's completely out of bounds. Actually, the Supreme Court has already said this, but they don't care about what the Supreme Court says because, again, the deep state has them blackmailed and they're controlled. So basically, they're blocking Trump from passport policies. And what's very interesting is that Stephen Miller said, let me just fix this whole thing and let me just tell you what the judge just did. The U.S. judge orders the State Department to publish fake passports with knowingly inaccurate biographic data. That's exactly right. That's exactly what they did. And you can see that deep state players, they keep using the idea that, oh, wait, you're going to keep back health care for the, when you're mutilating children, you're going to keep back the health care. You're not allowing them to get health care. And these are the words that they use, castration and mutilation of our children. That is health care. Well, I guess torture and whipping, that's a massage. I mean, really think about it. That's what they're trying to convince you of. Oh, that person that's, getting tortured, whipped, that's a massage he's getting. And this is the word games that they're using today. But are they working? Absolutely not. And you can see the deep state players, the Ds, they're very, very worried about what Trump is going to do because they saw what he did in LA and I do believe they expected Trump to release the troops on the protesters in all these different cities around the country. And when it didn't happen, they were absolutely confused of why it didn't happen. Because again, they were protesting in LA, and yes, they started to riot in LA, and Trump went ahead and brought out the National Guard. And they thought the same thing was going to happen around the country. And now they're confused of why Trump didn't do that. And they want to know that if there are protesters protesting, are you going to follow Trump's command in sending the troops to these different cities? Actually, Elizabeth Warren was asking this question. We also had Slotkin asking this question. We had Senator Harino. She was asking the same type of question. I mean, they basically varied in their type of question. Elizabeth Warren, will you follow the chain of command if Trump orders troops into 15 cities? The other senator says, if Trump says to fire at people's legs, will you do that? Of course, she was referring to Esper, who wrote a book, and doesn't mean the book is right. Actually, show us the proof. Show us exactly when Trump said this, and actually, there is no proof of this because, again, this is a lie. And they're trying to figure out why Trump didn't bring the National Guard into all the other cities, because they watched LA and they thought the same thing was going to happen. And the deep state players, they're trying to figure out what is going on here. And they want to know if Secretary Hegseth will follow the command of Trump. Now, again, they want him to answer because they're trying to trap him. And Hegseth, he did a very, very good job in bobbing and weaving. And guess what? They didn't get the answer that they wanted. So now they're completely and utterly confused, because I do believe in the end what they're planning to do is they're planning to stage something much, much worse than the No Kings rally. And they're trying to figure out exactly what Trump's motives will be. And so far, they're confused. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is that the FBI and the IRS, they've made a decision, and they're working together now to find out who funded the anti-ICE riots in L.A. FBI Los Angeles put this out and said, United States Attorney Bill Esseley, FBI Assistant Director in charge Akil Davis, and IRS Special Agent in charge Tyler Hatcher warned would-be offenders of the consequences of aiding and abetting acts of violence during civil unrest. And they're talking about that they're going to track down all those individuals that have funded all of this, and these people will be arrested and they will be brought to justice. They will be held accountable, which is going to be very, very interesting. And again, I do believe Antifa mapping was done a long time ago, and that mapping included who funded the deep state, who funded Antifa, who funded the riots. Now, we know that there are many different NGOs that have funded all of this, and they've been getting their money from USAID, from other D donors and things like that. But I do believe in the background of all this, the other funding is coming from Soros and many others who are receiving the funding from NGOs, which is then goes back to USAID or maybe other agencies. Now, the other thing that we can see, which is very, very interesting, we saw that during the 250th parade and the No Kings protest riots, we saw that an individual, Vance Bolter, he went to individuals' houses in Minnesota, lawmakers, and he basically shot them, killed two of them. The others were injured. And the police allowed this to happen. Now, either the police weren't supposed to be there. He was supposed to carry out his mission. It was supposed to be blamed on MAGA, the Republicans, because it looks like that's the narrative that they set up. The police arrived probably a little bit earlier than they were supposed to, so the whole thing started to fall apart. Now, we have that somebody broke in at the home of Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Hortman, who was assassinated by Vance Bolter. So the home appeared to have been searched by an unknown individual. So basically, are they trying to cover up what really happened here? And are they trying to remove the evidence? It's starting to seem that way. Now, the other thing that we've come to find out is that entire E. Jean Carroll case against Trump, where she accused him of raping her in Bergdorf Goodman, which we know is completely fake, phony, and false. We know that she's off her rocker. She came out with a book, not my type, and in the book, it actually says that Trump didn't rape her. Amused put this out and said, billionaire Reid Hoffman funded E. Jean Carroll's civil rape case against Trump, making it possible for the discredited advice columnist to bring decades-old charges to trial. The jury did not believe Carroll's claim of rape, and 2 years later, the former Playboy editor is admitting they were right in her new book, Not My Type. ABC News was forced to pay Trump $15 million after falsely claiming that the then former president did, in fact, rape Carroll. But sadly, the appeals court is still requiring Trump to pay her despite her false claims. His only hope for justice is SCOTUS. So basically, she's now admitting that this was all made up in a book. So basically, I think this should go in front of the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court should say, listen, you just admitted that this was all fake. You lied to the courts. And I think this should be reversed. So once again, you could see that all of this is starting to fall apart. And let's see how this is all played out. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is we know that a lot of information has come out about how China was pushing fake IDs, pushing fake ballots. We know the illegals are using the fake ballots to basically mail them in or send them in to vote for the individual that they want. And again, it's already preset, and this is how they rigged the election. But it seems that other things are pretty darn crazy when you look at Biden. And what's very interesting, and Mike Benz put this out, is that this USAID scam story is getting crazier and crazier. The day after Biden lost the 2024 election, the Biden admin gave the USAID scam contracting firm that already got almost $1 billion in USAID funds a new contract with a $999 billion potential award amount. So that is very, very interesting. So basically, they were just funneling as much money as possible through USAID, then to go to NGOs, then to go to other NGOs, then to go to shell companies. Then those individuals like Biden and others, they would be getting their kickbacks, and that money would be then money laundered off to other individuals like Soros to push certain agendas. And we could see that they were doing this the last days of the Biden administration, and they were trying to set everything up for when Trump came in so they could use this money to go get Trump. But it seems like it's completely and utterly falling apart. We could see where the money is going now. And again, everything is being shut down for them. But the one thing for sure that is happening is now people are starting to realize that the 2020 elections, they were rigged. And it looks like they tried to destroy the evidence. Trump, he put this out and said, FBI asked spy agencies to destroy intel on alleged China plot to aid Joe Biden in 2020 election. So that is very, very interesting. Margot Cleveland put this out and said, Grassley letter reviews FBI orders records destroyed in September 2020. This does not conform to record preservation requirements. You know the thing FBI raided Mar-a-Lago for? Still trying to puzzle together but letter 5 of 5 provides solid hints. It seemed that the destroyed record was related to Biden-Ukraine corruption, to fake briefing Dems, had FBI to do falsely frame Grassley and Johnson as peddling Russian disinfo. Grassley's newest letter names 2 FBI agents out of Albany and the D.C. agent who briefed Grassley and Johnson to create a narrative, i.e. them pushing Russian disinformation. So what document was destroyed? So that is very interesting. Are they trying to cover up what really happened here? It's starting to seem that way. So basically they were covering up the overthrow of the United States government. General Flynn put this out and said, so there was foreign interference by the CCP in the 2020 presidential election. Who was running the USIC at the time, and why didn't this get exposed back then? Can we get 4 years of our lives back? Christopher Porter responded to General Flynn and said, Sir, I was in charge of election analysis and did call it out. CIA and ODNI tried to cover up the evidence, and when I wouldn't go along with it, they terminated me. So this is getting worse and worse for the deep state players, because what always gets you in the end? It's the crime that you're covering up. And someone brought you this evidence, you fired them, you destroyed evidence, and when Wray testified in front of Congress, he lied that there was any problems whatsoever, that he didn't see any. Bill Barr didn't even see the evidence. They all lied. Think about that for a second. And once again, now the truth is coming out. The Skiff put this out and said, Biden's family and CIA took millions from China, and the in-depth look on how they stole the 2020 election. Trump's FBI found out that Biden's intelligence agencies were trying to cover it up and destroy the evidence. This is monumental. The Biden family was taking millions of dollars from China. Biden CIA Director Bill Burns also took millions of dollars from the Chinese government. The entire foreign policy establishment of the Biden White House had millions of dollars being injected into it from the Chinese government. They also used fake IDs and fake ballots to help ensure Biden would win the 2020 election, and censored massive amounts of people on the internet and social media platforms to silence anything regarding Trump and the election, including his loyal supporters. This is exactly what a dictator does, and the definition of fascism itself. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Everyone remembers the videos of them pulling suitcases of ballots from underneath tables after the poll watchers went home because of water pipes allegedly breaking, which pretty much never happened, covering windows, wheeling in carts full of duffel bags filled with ballots and no chain of custody, 18-wheelers and UPS trucks full of fake ballots. Our own postal service was even involved. People were even finding piles of Trump ballots dumped in the woods and caught postal workers ditching Trump ballots in storm drains. We want justice, and we, the people, want arrests. And I do believe in the end that's exactly what we're going to get. But again, you have to remember, Trump and the Patriots, they're actually putting everything into place to do this. And I do believe, going back in time, we didn't have the judges, we didn't have control of the agencies, we didn't have any of that. Now, maybe Trump thought at the time that certain people would be on his side, but then he started to realize and he started to understand that, wait a minute, these people, they're not going to be working with me. They are not patriots of this country. They are controlled by the deep state players. And again, this is why most likely plans had to change. It doesn't mean the goal has changed. It means the path that we were taking had to go in a different direction to reach that goal. And as time went on, Trump started to realize, yes, this system that they've created in D.C. is so corrupt, there's no one there that can be trusted. People that you thought could be trusted, I think Trump realized that they cannot be trusted. And now, coming back after he placed the resident in place where he destroyed America and people woke up, Trump brought in his people that he trusted because it allowed him to see the board. It allowed him to see all the people. And every step of the way, you can really see who's who, especially when events occur. Now, Trump, he went ahead and he pretty much installed flagpoles on the North Lawn and the South Lawn, and he raised the flags today. And he put this out on Truth. He said, "It is my great honor to announce that I will be putting up 2 beautiful flagpoles on both sides of the White House. North and South Lawns. It is a gift from me of something which was always missing from this magnificent place. The digging and the placement of the poles will begin at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow morning. Flags will be raised at approximately 11 a.m. These are the most magnificent poles made. They are tall, tapered, rust-proof, rope inside the pole, and one of the highest quality. Hopefully, they'll proudly stand at both sides of the White House for many years to come. And it's very interesting is that he has two flags, FF. False flag? Maybe, maybe not. But during the flag ceremony, Trump was wearing a white hat, not a red hat, not a black hat, a white hat. Very interesting. And the reporter asked POTUS a very interesting question. And Trump, he answered that he was hunted since he came down the escalator, and he's no longer being hunted. He is now the hunter. Take a listen.
I've had it for a long time. The first time I had it, but you guys were after me. I said I had to focus. I was the hunted, and now I'm the hunter. It's a big difference.
So did Trump just signal that pretty much everything has changed? He has complete and utter control. It's starting to seem that way. This reminds me of a couple of posts. 3464, July 22nd, 2019. Dark to light, hunters become the hunted. This is not another 4-year election. Post 3799. You don't think we highlighted Epstein for no reason, did you? Those who were once protected are no longer. Timing is everything. Hunters become prey. Post 4866. There is a movie poster that was put up on this post, and it says, "Below the depths of the DC swamp, the hunt is on." In the invisible war for the future of our republic, the tables are now turned, and now the hunters become the hunted. Patriots in control. Down below it says, "After today." Makes more sense? Buckle up. And I do believe everyone has to buckle up, because now we're moving into the phase where we got to take back control of the House. The deep state is going to fight with everything that they have to stop that, because they know once they lose control of the House, they're screwed. Once their people are out, they're screwed. Once they lose Iran, Ukraine, they're screwed. Trump is dismantling the deep state every step of the way. And once we get the House, once we get the Senate, Trump will have all the power that he needs. At that point, Trump pretty much can do anything. And we, the people, will be right there with him. Why? Because the Patriots are in control. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.